At 11:52 p.m., all the lights in the Johnson house went out simultaneously. Not gradually, like someone was going to bed, all at once, like someone had flipped the main breaker. But here's what she didn't hear, and what still gives Riverside police nightmares, was any sound at all between 12:15 a.m. and 3:17 a.m. At 12:15 a.m., Mrs. Patterson from across the street heard what she described as furniture being moved around and muffled voices arguing. It was someone who'd read her bedtime stories every night for 8 years. 2 hours of complete silence from a house where 3 people were being systematically murdered. Because when that terrified 8-year-old finally found the courage to call 911, the person she was hiding from wasn't a stranger. Things that seemed normal at the time suddenly feel sinister in the cold light of what happened. He used to wave every morning when he got his newspaper, she told detectives. But for the past month he would just stare at our house. Not a normal look, like he was studying us. Looking back, the residents of Maple Street remember things differently now. Mrs. Chun from 1251. Maple Street remembers how Robert Johnson had been acting strange for weeks before the murders. The mailman, Tony Rodriguez, who'd been delivering to Maple Street for 12 years, noticed something else. 3 weeks before the murders, little Emma drew a picture during art class that was so disturbing. The teacher kept it in her desk instead of sending it home. It was the final act of a plan that had been years in the making. But instead of a happy family, Emma had drawn figures lying on the floor with red crayons scribbled around them. When her teacher asked about it, Emma said something that still makes grown adults shiver. Daddy's been practicing for when Mommy finds his secret room. Wide open, swaying slightly in the October breeze, like the house itself was gasping for air. Amanda Johnson lay at the bottom of the staircase, but forensics would later prove she hadn't fallen. She'd been dragged there after being killed upstairs. 12-year-old Tyler was found in his bedroom, still in his pajamas, clutching his Nintendo DS like he'd been playing games when death came for him. Robert started getting weird packages, Tony told investigators. Heavy boxes with no return addresses. When I'd hand them to him, he'd snatch them real quick and take them straight to the garage. Never seen anything like it, but the most chilling detail came from Emma's teacher at Riverside Elementary. The positioning of the bodies, the lack of defensive wounds on the victims, the way the house was left. This was someone who knew exactly what they were doing and had done it before. The bed was perfectly made. Amanda's jewelry box was undisturbed. Her purse sat on the dresser with $200 in cash still inside. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was something far more personal, far more calculated. The drawing showed a house, clearly the Johnson house, with its distinctive white fence. Secret room. Those 2 words would soon unlock a mystery so dark, FBI profilers are still studying it today. Because when Riverside police finally got their search warrant for 1247 Maple Street, what they found in Robert Johnson's secret room would prove that October 15th was a crime of passion, ... And the person who helped him plan it? They were sitting right there in the police station, pretending to be just as shocked as everyone else. When Officer Maria Santos arrived at 1247 Maple Street at 3:24 a.m., the first thing she noticed was the front door. The second thing she noticed was the silence. No crying child, no sounds of distress, just an eerie quiet that made her radio for immediate backup before even stepping inside. What Officer Santos found in the Johnson family home would haunt her for the rest of her career. But it was what investigators found in the master bedroom that told the real story. Detective Ray Morrison, who'd worked homicides in Los Angeles for 15 years before transferring to Riverside, said the scene was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't in the main house. It was when crime scene techs noticed that the garage had been converted into something else entirely. A soundproof room with reinforced walls, multiple locks, and something that made Detective Morrison's blood run cold. A chair with restraints positioned directly in front of a video camera. It had been recording for the past 6 months. And that camera, who'd been comforting neighbors and answering questions for investigators, who'd been sitting in Detective Morrison's office for 3 hours playing the role of the devastated relative. When they finally found little Emma Johnson, she was hiding in her bedroom closet. Clutched in her small hands was a cell phone, her mother's cell phone, and she kept repeating the same words over and over. Daddy said Uncle Tommy would keep me safe, but Uncle Tommy was helping him. Uncle Tommy, Thomas Blake, Robert's brother-in-law, who'd been the first family member to arrive at the scene. Thomas Blake, who had no idea that an 8-year-old girl had been watching from her closet when he helped her father commit the perfect family annihilation. She saw Blake remove something from behind the workbench, something small that he quickly shoved into his jacket pocket. When confronted, Blake claimed he was just looking for tools to help with the investigation. Thomas Blake, Amanda's own brother, the man she distrusted to be her children's godfather, had been planning his sister's murder for over a year. For months, someone had been visiting the garage late at night, helping Robert prepare for what they called the final solution to the Amanda problem. While Detective Morrison was interviewing neighbors, Blake thought no one was watching when he slipped into the Johnson garage. 3 weeks before her murder, Amanda had discovered that Thomas had been embezzling money from their late father's estate, money that was supposed to go to Tyler and Emma as college funds. An email that was scheduled to send automatically on October 16th, just 1 day after the murders. He was the architect of it. Robert Johnson, with his history of depression and financial troubles, was the perfect patsy. All Thomas had to do was manipulate Robert's existing marital problems, provide him with the tools and knowledge to commit the murders, then sit back and play the grieving brother-in-law. Except for one thing Thomas Blake never accounted for: an 8-year-old girl with her mother's intelligence and her father's as stubborn refusal to give up, including the conversation between her uncle and her father about cleaning up the evidence and making sure the story stays straight. At 6:45 a.m., just as the sun was rising over Riverside, Thomas Blake made a critical mistake. But Officer Santos was watching. That something was a USB drive. A USB drive containing 6 months of video footage from Robert Johnson's secret room, footage that would reveal the true scope of what had been happening at 1247 Maple Street. The videos showed Robert Johnson wasn't working alone. In fact, he wasn't even the mastermind. That someone was captured clearly on camera. But why? What could drive a man to help orchestrate the brutal slaying of his own sister and her children? The answer was found in Amanda's laptop in a folder labeled Legal Documents. Amanda had screenshots, bank records, and a drafted email to the Riverside County District Attorney's Office. Thomas Blake wasn't just an accomplice in his sister's murder. It was a plan that almost worked perfectly. Because while Emma Johnson was hiding in that closet, she wasn't just hiding. She was recording everything on her mother's phone. And by 9 a.m., he was making a confession that would reveal just how deep this family's darkness really went. I never meant for the kids to get hurt. No request for a lawyer, no denial of involvement, just a confession wrapped in the oldest lie killers tell themselves. Those were the first words out of Thomas Blake's mouth when Detective Morrison placed him in interview, room 3 at the Riverside Police Department. The video equipment was professional grade, not something you buy for intimidation. He claimed Robert had discovered Amanda's plan to expose the embezzlement and came to him for help. He claimed they only intended to scare Amanda into keeping quiet. For the next 4 hours, Blake laid out a story of financial desperation, family betrayal, and calculated murder that left even experienced investigators shaken. But the evidence told a different story. The soundproof garage had been under construction for 6 months. The restraint chair had been custom built. Video after video of Blake visiting the garage, bringing equipment, testing the restraints, even practicing with mannequins to perfect their technique. Thomas Blake and Robert Johnson had been prepared to torture and murder an 8-year-old child to cover their tracks. You were planning to make her disappear entirely. What stopped you? Robert wanted to include her in the plan. That's when I knew we had to move fast. This wasn't a scare tactic gone wrong. This was a torture chamber designed for a very specific purpose. They were sitting in the police station lobby, comforting Emma Johnson, playing the role of the caring family friend who'd rushed over to help with the traumatized child. Blake's story began to fall apart when Detective Morrison showed him the footage from Robert's camera. You weren't planning to scare your sister, Thomas, Detective Morrison said, sliding a photograph across the table. Patricia had worked with traumatized children for 12 years, but something about Emma's behavior was bothering her. But Amanda's best friend, Lisa, who'd been Amanda's maid of honor, Tyler's soccer coach, and Emma's emergency contact at school. Lisa, who'd been the first person Amanda called before calling her sister that night. Blake's answer would chill investigators to the bone. Emma saw us through the window that first night we used the chair. Include her in the plan. But there was something Blake didn't know, something that would shatter his confession and reveal an even darker truth about the Johnson family murders. She asked Emma to draw another picture, not of her house this time, but of all the people who'd been helping her family recently. She as the one who taught Daddy how to be quiet when he practiced with Mommy in the garage. The real mastermind behind the killings was Aunt In. Interview room 3. And that person had been playing this role for much longer than anyone realized. The child was too calm, too prepared with answers, and she kept looking at someone in the lobby like she was waiting for permission to speak. That someone was Lisa Chun, not the neighbor Mrs. Chun? Patricia Williams made a decision that would crack the case wide open. Emma's drawing showed 4 figures, her father, her Uncle Thomas, herself, and a woman with long, dark hair standing behind her father, holding something in her hand. When Patricia asked who the woman was, Emma's answer stopped everyone in the lobby cold. That's Miss Lisa. Emma's answer stopped everyone in the lobby cold. That's Miss Lisa. She asked the one who taught Daddy how to be quiet when he practiced with Mommy in the garage, who'd been having dinner at the Johnson house twice a week for the past year, had been the real architect behind the murders. Lisa Chun, Amanda Johnson's closest friend, the woman who'd helped plan Emma's last birthday party. Lisa Chun's motive was something far more twisted and far more personal. And when Amanda started talking about leaving Robert, about taking the kids and starting fresh somewhere new, Lisa realized she was about to lose the object of her obsession forever. But her motive wasn't money like Thomas Blake. It wasn't marital problems like Robert Johnson. Convince Robert that Amanda was planning to take the children away forever. Let them do the dirty work while Lisa played the grieving best friend who helped raise Emma after the tragedy. Had been for years. Lisa Chun was in love with Amanda Johnson. If Lisa couldn't have Amanda, then nobody could. The plan was elegant in its manipulation. Convince Thomas that Amanda was going to destroy the family financially. It was a plan that required patience, psychological manipulation, and a level of calculated evil that still makes FBI profilers study the case today. He'd learned that killers often can't resist inserting themselves into their victims' final moments, and something about Lisa Chun had been bothering him since Emma's drawing. Not a sad smile of remembrance, but a satisfied smile of someone who'd accomplished exactly what they set out to do. She was recording Lisa Chun giving them instructions on how to clean up properly and make sure there's no evidence linking back to me. She smiled. Now you'll never leave me again. But Lisa Chun made one crucial mistake. She underestimated an 8-year-old girl who'd inherited her mother's intelligence and her father's survival instincts. As mourners filed past Amanda's casket, Lisa lingered. Morrison watched her lean over and whisper something to Amanda, say body. Words that the funeral home as security cameras caught on video with perfect audio clarity. When investigators searched her apartment on Magnolia Avenue in Riverside, they found a shrine that had been growing for over 3 years. Because while Emma was hiding in that closet, she wasn't just recording her father and uncle. Photos of Amanda showering, sleeping, changing clothes. Photos of Amanda with her children that had been edited to remove Robert from the frame. At 3:45 p.m. on October 15, 2023, Lisa Chun went from concerned family friend to prime suspect in a triple homicide conspiracy that had taken over a year to orchestrate. Her confession, when it finally came, would reveal just how deep the manipulation went, and how many other families might have been targeted by someone who perfected the art of destroying people from the inside out. Lisa Chun's fatal mistake happened at Amanda Johnson's funeral on October 22, 2023, in front of 300 mourners at Riverside Memorial Chapel. Lisa Chun did something that made Morrison's blood run cold. And personal belongings, items that Amanda had mentioned losing over the past year, but assumed she'd simply misplaced. Detective Morrison was there, not to pay respects, but to observe. During the eulogy, as Amanda's sister Jennifer spoke about her sister's kindness and trust in others, but it was after the service that Lisa made her crucial error. "I told you that you belonged to me, Amanda." Those 17 words, captured on camera at a funeral attended by hundreds of witnesses, gave Detective Morrison everything he needed for an arrest warrant. But Lisa Chun's obsession with Amanda Johnson went much deeper than anyone had realized. Photos of Amanda covered every wall of Lisa's bedroom, not just normal pictures, but photos taken secretly through the Johnson family's windows. In Lisa's closet, investigators found over 40 items of Amanda's clothing, jewelry. But the most disturbing discovery was Lisa's computer. Her browser history showed months of research into how to manipulate depressed spouses into violence, psychological techniques for family annihilation, and how to comfort grieving children after trauma. Lisa Chun hadn't just planned Amanda's murder. She'd been planning to step into Amanda's life completely, as Emma's new guardian, as the family's protector, as the person everyone would turn to in their grief. They were dealing with someone who spent years perfecting techniques to destroy families and insert herself into the wreckage. Detective Morrison realized they weren't just dealing with a murder conspiracy. And when they dug deeper into Lisa's background, they discovered something that made every investigator on the case question: how many other family tragedies in Riverside County might not have been tragedies at all? On October 25, 2023, Lisa Chun made a mistake that would expose the full scope of her crimes. While being held at Riverside County Jail awaiting trial, she requested to speak with another inmate, Sarah Martinez, who was being held on unrelated charges. What followed was a carefully orchestrated sting operation that would uncover a killing spree that had been hiding in plain sight for over 5 years. What Lisa didn't know was that Sarah Martinez was a former psychology graduate student who immediately recognized the signs of someone desperate to confess their masterpiece to anyone who would listen. Then she would systematically manipulate their family situations until tragedy struck: suicides, murder-suicides, domestic violence incidents that left children orphaned and communities devastated. In each case, she'd positioned herself as the helpful friend who stepped in to comfort the surviving children. Sarah played her role perfectly. She listened to Lisa describe the Johnson murders with pride, with detailed explanations of how she'd orchestrated everything perfectly. But more chilling were Lisa's references to previous projects, and how she'd been perfecting this technique for years. Women who were isolated, vulnerable, and desperate for friendship. Lisa was the crisis counselor who'd been supporting the family through the divorce. In every case, those children had eventually been placed in foster care after developing behavioral problems while in Lisa's care. Lisa was a family friend who'd been trying to help them work things out. Sarah reported everything to her lawyer, who immediately contacted Detective Morrison. Lisa Chun, it turned out, had a type: single mothers with young children who were going through difficult divorces or breakups. There was a network, other people who shared her obsession with rescuing children by eliminating their parents. She would insert herself into their lives slowly, becoming indispensable as the caring friend who was always there to help. Over the past 5 years, Lisa Chun had been connected to 7 different family tragedies across 3 California counties. The Martinez family in Corona, father killed mother, then himself. In 2019, Lisa was their neighbor who'd been helping with their marriage problems. The Williams family in San Bernardino, mother's apparent suicide in 2020, after custody battle turned violent. The Thompson family in Pomona, murder-suicide in 2021 that shocked the community. In every case, Lisa had gained custody or guardianship of the surviving children. Lisa Chun wasn't just a killer. She was a predator who fed on family destruction, someone who'd turned the murder of parents into a system for collecting traumatized children. But her confession revealed something even more disturbing. She wasn't working alone, and that network was still active, still operating, still targeting vulnerable families across Southern California. The trial of Lisa Chun began on March 15, 2024, at Riverside County Superior Court. What was supposed to be a straightforward murder conspiracy case became one of the most complex serial killing trials in California history. Prosecutor Janet Reynolds faced a challenge unlike any in her career. How do you prove someone orchestrated multiple family tragedies across several years when each incident had been investigated and closed as isolated domestic violence cases? But instead of just healing, Emma had been remembering things, details about Lisa's visits to their house that she hadn't been able to articulate before. She remembered Lisa offering to help her parents with their communication problems. Most importantly, Emma remembered Lisa recording conversations with her parents on her phone, conversations that she claimed were for therapy purposes. The answer came from an unexpected source. Emma Johnson, now 9 years old, had been working with child psychologists for months to process her trauma. Emma remembered Lisa bringing her father books about dealing with difficult spouses. Those recordings, when investigators finally obtained Lisa's phone records, contained months of Lisa systematically manipulating both Amanda and Robert Johnson into believing their marriage was beyond repair. But the evidence was overwhelming. 7 families destroyed, 12 adults dead, 15 children orphaned, still operating, still targeting families. But the prosecution's strongest evidence came from Lisa herself. She lives with her Aunt Jennifer in Corona, California, just 20 minutes from the house on Maple Street where her world ended on October 15, 2023. Her jail recordings with Sarah Martinez had been so detailed, so proud, that they provided a roadmap to every manipulation technique she'd used across multiple cases. The defense tried to argue that Lisa was delusional, that her confessions were fantasies of someone with severe mental illness. On August 7, 2024, after 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned guilty verdicts on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to murder, child endangerment, and special circumstances that made her eligible for the death penalty. Her insights have been so valuable that the FBI has created a new protocol called the Emma Johnson Assessment for recognizing manipulation in family crisis situations. But the verdict came with something nobody expected: a sealed recommendation from the jury that would remain classified until all related investigations were complete. But never for the adults, a technique designed to make kids trust her while parents focused on their own problems. She noticed that Lisa always encouraged her parents to have private conversations without the children around, conversations that were actually being recorded for future manipulation, because Lisa Chun's network was still out there, and Emma Johnson's testimony had given investigators the key to finding them. She still can't be in enclosed spaces without knowing exactly where the exits are. Families who are now safe because a 10-year-old girl refused to let her trauma be meaningless. Today, Emma Johnson is 10 years old. But Emma isn't just surviving, she's helping other children survive too. Working with child psychologists and FBI behavioral analysts, Emma has helped identify pattern markers that might indicate when families are being targeted by predators like Lisa Chun. Emma remembers things that trained investigators miss. She noticed that Lisa always brought gifts for the children. Most importantly, Emma recognized that Lisa had a special way of talking to children about their parents' problems, making the kids feel like they were the only ones who could help Mommy and Daddy get better. These observations have helped law enforcement identify 12 other families across Southern California who were being targeted by Lisa's network. But Emma's journey hasn't been easy. She still has nightmares about that night. She still checks door locks multiple times before bed. Emma is one of the strongest people I've ever worked with, says Dr. Michael Torres, the child psychologist who's been treating her since the murders. She's taken something horrific and turned it into a way to protect other families. That takes a level of courage that most adults don't possess. Emma has a message for other children who might be in dangerous situations. If a grown-up tells you to keep secrets about your family, tell someone else right away. If someone says they're helping your parents, but your parents seem more scared or sad, tell a teacher or police officer. And if someone hurts people in your family, it's not your fault, even if they try to make you think it is. At 10 years old, Emma Johnson has become a voice for children who can't protect themselves. But her story isn't over yet, because the network that Lisa Chun was part of is still active, still hunting, still destroying families. And Emma Johnson is helping law enforcement stop them. He has cooperated with investigators to help identify other potential targets of Lisa's network. As of today, December 2024, Lisa Chun sits on death row at Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. She has refused all interview requests and spends 23 hours a day in solitary confinement after attempting to manipulate other inmates into harming themselves. It's a crime pattern that was previously unrecognized because each incident appeared to be isolated domestic violence. He left a note apologizing to Emma and begging forgiveness for allowing himself to be manipulated into destroying his own family. But no one in Riverside wants to live where such calculated evil once resided. The neighbors have moved away one by one, unable to forget what happened in the house with the white fence and rose garden. She has kept Emma's bedroom exactly as it was before the murders, not as a shrine to trauma, but as a reminder that evil can be survived and overcome. She wants other kids to know the warning signs, to know they can survive, and to know that the bad people don't always win. Lisa Chung opened our eyes to a type of predator we didn't even know existed. Morrison says, people who get psychological satisfaction from destroying families and collecting the traumatized children. We're finding cases going back decades that fit this pattern. Robert Johnson died by suicide in a cell at Riverside County Jail on November 3, 2023, just 3 weeks after his arrest. There are at least 12 other individuals across 5 states who've been using similar manipulation techniques to orchestrate family tragedies. Thomas Blake pled guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and is serving life without parole at California State Prison, Corcoran. But the investigation into Lisa Chun's network has revealed something far more disturbing than anyone imagined. She manipulated a grieving brother-in-law, a depressed husband, and vulnerable family dynamics to create the perfect murder scenario, and she almost got away with it. The FBI has established a task force specifically focused on what they call proxy family annihilation, cases where outside individuals manipulate family members into committing violence against each other. Sometimes it knocks politely, brings gifts for your children, and offers to help with your problems. Detective Ray Morrison, who led the Johnson investigation, has been promoted to head the new task force. The house at 1247 Maple Street stands empty. It's been on the market for over a year, but Emma's Aunt Jennifer has made a decision that might surprise you. Emma is writing a book, Jennifer told us last week. At 10 years old, Emma Johnson is already saving lives. And she's just getting started. The Johnson family murders prove something that should terrify every parent in America. Evil doesn't always break down your door in the middle of the night. Lisa Chun spent over a year gaining Amanda Johnson's trust while simultaneously orchestrating her destruction. If not for an 8-year-old girl's courage and intelligence, Lisa Chun would still be out there, targeting new families, destroying more lives, collecting more traumatized children. The FBI estimates that proxy family annihilation cases like this happen far more often than we realize. They read just disguised as domestic violence, suicide, or family tragedies. But thanks to Emma Johnson's insights, law enforcement now knows what to look for. So what can you do to protect your family? Trust your instincts. If someone seems too helpful, too interested in your personal problems, too eager to be involved in your family dynamics, pay attention to that feeling. If your children mention that an adult has asked them to keep secrets about family conversations, investigate immediately. More arrests are expected. More families are being protected because of what happened on Maple Street in Riverside, California. Hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell. There are more cases like this, cases where the real monsters hide behind helpful smiles and caring gestures, cases where the truth is always more twisted than fiction. Your support helps us continue investigations that keep families safe and give voice to survivors like Emma Johnson. And if you're a child watching this who's in a scary situation, remember Emma's words. It's not your fault. Secrets about your family should be shared with trusted adults, and you are stronger than you know. This case is still developing. The investigation into Lisa Chun's network continues, and we're just getting started uncovering it. If this deep dive into the darkest corners of human manipulation kept you on the edge of your seat, you know what to do. I'm here to shine a light into those dark places where most people are afraid to look. Until next time, stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and remember the person trying to help your family might be the most dangerous person in your life. Coming up next week, we re-investigating the case of the Phoenix babysitter, a woman who gained the trust of 17 families before vanishing with their children. The case that's still active, still unsolved, and still happening right now in Arizona. The truth is always darker than we imagine.